Are you using Google to the fullest to investigate your family tree? I know I don't do it as often as I should, which is why I invited Lisa Louise Cook of the Genealogy Gems podcast to come talk to us on how to get the most out of Google. Howdy, I'm Devin Noel-Lee with Family History Fanatics, where we help you understand DNA, climb your family tree, and write their stories along the way. Now, in this video, we're going to jump in and talk to Lisa Louise Cook of the Genealogy Gen podcast about her book and her tips for getting the most out of Google for your genealogy research. Be sure to check the links in the description to access her book and her podcast. So hi, Lisa. How are you doing?
Hi, Devin. It's great to be here.
I am so glad that we can get together and talk to you about your book. And why don't you go ahead and tell people how you came up with the idea for this book?
Well, the book originally was going to be just about how to Google search. There's lots of different strategies and things that you can do, and particularly focused on genealogy. But the more I dug into it and the more examples I was showing, I kept, deviating into other Google tools. And I realized there really is a whole toolbox here. And that's how it ended up being the Genealogist Google Toolbox. We're going to show you the search strategies, but then it's the same search engine in all the free tools. So we just take it from there and show tons of different ways that a genealogist could use it to accomplish their goals.
Absolutely. That's awesome. So originally this book came out in 2012, and then you released a second edition, and now you have the second edition updated to 2019.
Yes.
What's different?
Well, lots of different things. Oh my gosh. Every year something goes. In fact, every time I give a presentation, I have to double check that Google hasn't turned something off or turned something on. But we did update it for 2019, and the key there was to get all the screenshots and the links, working and up to date so people wouldn't be frustrated when they got to those, because things do change. I think some of the major changes happened actually more between the first edition and the second edition. Mm-hmm. And those were things like we used to use a plus sign to as a search operator in our search queries. Mm-hmm. And of course, then Google Plus came out and they started using the plus sign for something else. So nowadays, in order to make a search mandatory, where every single result has that word or that phrase, and that those words and phrases are spelled that way, we put quotation marks around them. So that's just one of the kind of the search changes that's happened. Lately, they've been turning some things off, unfortunately. So
I know. Some people have been, some people were super bummed with Google Groups and Google Plus, right? Google Plus. Mm-hmm. And now lately it's Google Hangouts are going away.
Yeah.
What are we going to do?
Well, and some of those things are that they morph into some other tool, and sometimes they just completely go away, as in with Google Plus. It could not compete with Facebook. But even in the search realm, in terms of search operators, we used to be able to use a tilde, the little squiggly line, to tell Google, use this word, but then search for the synonyms of this word. And so synonym search doesn't work anymore. So we've got to tell Google some of the main alternative words that we want it to look for as well. So even in the search operator realm, but certainly in some of the tools, things do go away. So you kind of have to check, and like anything else, we just have to take a deep breath and say, you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You just say, things changed. Yeah.
Things do change. I think there's a song about changing.
Yeah. David Bowie.
There you go. See? That's why we talked to Lisa. She's more knowledgeable than we realize. What do you think has been the best innovation on Google? I know you have to pick one, but what do you think is, what's the one that you are really excited about that has been improving?
I think it's in the area of Google Earth. And in fact, I was just writing a blog post about that today. Google Earth, of course, is a free software program, and it's been available for several years now. And there's many chapters in the book dedicated to how to use it for family history projects. But recently, in the last year or so, they have finally come out with a web-based version. So this
Mhm.
is Google Earth for Chrome, and it's beautiful and glorious. And I think the idea behind it was they really wanted everybody to make use of it. And not everybody's going to download a software program. In
Mhm.
fact, a downloadable software program is kind of a different animal. It's not what you think of when you think of Google. So
Mhm.
this way, everybody can go in the Google Chrome browser. So only in the Chrome browser, it doesn't work in Firefox, at least not yet. I would
Okay.
be surprised if it did.
Mhm.
You can use the Google search functionality, but the important thing to know as these tools come and go and morph is you don't always get the same tools in that program.
Okay.
So if even now, I think Google Earth software is my go-to. That has all the bells and whistles. You'll be able to do anything that you want to do in that. Google Chrome can do a lot of great things, but it's geared to the casual user. And a lot of the projects I know I talk about in the book, are going to go more in depth than that and create bigger projects. So you'll want to do those in the software.
So, besides Google Earth, you talk about searching for photos on Google. So, give me one tip for how to search for photos on Google.
Oh, sure. Oh gosh. And every day there are probably millions of photos coming online, so you never know what you're going to find. One tip I would give you is if you've been going through your grandma's scrapbook and you see a postcard, let's say, and it's not identified, you don't know why did she save this postcard. Sometimes, and I know in my grandmother's scrapbooks, they're not even written on. It's just the postcard she wanted, it's the picture.
Right,
But
for
I don't know
sure.
what the significance is.
Hmm.
If you scan that picture and get a digital version of it on your computer, then I would recommend don't just do a Google search in google.com, but go to google.com and click images in the upper right hand corner, or just Google it, right? So Google images, that's always the easiest way. And when you get to Google images,
Hmm.
that search box has a little camera icon. So you can click that icon and
Hmm.
actually upload this digital picture from your computer into Google. So when it runs it through the system, it's actually checking all the images they've, collected over the last couple of years. They match them
Last
up. They
couple.
scare, yeah, they do like a facial recognition, but it's not quite, fully sophisticated yet. And
Okay.
they're going to go and check and see, can we find other images that match?
Okay.
So I've had this actually tell me this is a castle in Scotland, and here's the name of the castle. And here's three
Wow.
other versions of that picture or a picture of that location. So it
Nice.
works really well if it's somebody fairly well known, if it's a well known location, if there's something
Okay.
significant there, it's going to grab it.
Okay.
But for everyday people who are not famous, it may not match up the person. But what it
Okay.
can do is it can tell Google when you search for keywords, you want images that look like this in a sense, sepia tone, black and white, vintage.
Okay.
So it's a nice, easy way to quickly get to vintage photographs on a particular topic, even if it's not going to match it exactly. The photo itself will
Hmm.
give Google the idea of the type of image, and you'll get there much faster.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Now, with images or with any kind of content, do you have some strategies on how we can be safe on searching for the content that we most want and stay away from stuff that not our cup of tea?
Sure. Well, what I just suggested actually can help a lot is if you
Okay.
use your own image to start the process, to kind of dictate where you're going with it, then that can help a lot. It can tell Google the type of images you're interested in.
Okay.
The other thing that you can do is have your search history on. So be signed into your Google account. And
Hmm.
you can always look at your history in My Activity. So you could just
Hmm.
Google that, My Activity, and you'll be signed into your Google account. And Google will track what you search for, which is actually
Hmm.
really helpful. It creates a breadcrumb trail, but it's also figuring out here are the kinds of things you search for. And it will start to sway the results you're getting towards the kinds of things you want. So if
Hmm.
you're not looking at things that are objectionable to you,
Hmm.
they're far less likely to show up in your searches.
Okay.
And
So,
the other trick
okay.
I would say, Devin, is that use the search operators.
Okay.
So things like the quotation marks saying, hey, it has to have this word, it has to be exact. The more you control what the search query is, and what it means, the more Google's going to be restricted and go straight to what you want and not kind of deviate into other areas.
Okay, good. Because I know a lot of people are not a fan of Google because they keep track of you, but it sounds like it's actually kind of beneficial to keep you out of parts, be it political or inappropriate music or in images or whatnot, to keep you where you want to be and keep genealogy fun. So you mentioned in your book some things I know very few people think about. The first one is Google Scholar, and the second is Google Patents. So tell me, what kinds of information would we find in either one?
Oh, you got to love Google Scholar because it has source citations. So
Yay.
isn't that awesome? I mean, Google Scholar is one of those tools in the toolbox where it's a specialized search engine, and it's only searching the universities and legal archives and corporate archives, and they're really going for scholarly documents with source citations. So if you can find information about your family history in there, whether it's an ancestor or a place or events, you're likely to find documents that, if you look to the bottom, not only have their sources cited, but they're hyperlinked. Isn't that amazing? So you could click that link and go to the next document. I mean, talk about a wonderful kind of proactive breadcrumb trail that you can follow. So Google Scholar is tremendous in that respect. And Google Patents, I think, many people will be surprised to realize that either they have an ancestor that did get somehow involved in an invention, and they don't have to be the inventor. Okay. They could be somebody who worked on the team. They could be somebody that's mentioned in the patent itself. They could be somehow influencing the situation. So it's worth a look. They go way back in time. They've even got some European patents in there. And, it only takes a second to Google, so you might as well go and check it out.
Right, for sure. So in the patents, do you just put in your ancestor's name, the first and last, or just a surname? What do you suggest?
It depends on how common the name is. Okay. So if I was looking for my Sborowski, any of my Sborowski relatives, it's, there's only so many of those out in the world, and that's a pretty easy one. I would just start with the surname. I'm interested in any Sborowski involved in a patent or in Google Scholar. But with the Cook, and my husband's father was one of the co-founders and developers of Particle Board. So he has a patent and on Particle Board and all the layers and the drawings that he made. But when I search for him, not only do I have his full name, but I still get other William Cooks who created things. So that's where we go back to the early chapters of my book and use the search operator, because then we can further direct Google. He's got to have this middle name or this middle initial or not these words, and we can really zero right in.
I like it. Now back to Google Scholar for a minute. Is that a place that you would recommend for researching statutes for the time periods your ancestors lived? So perhaps what were the statutes in place that handled probate and estate planning, or is that somewhere else?
I think you could absolutely check Google Scholar. I think I would probably, if you don't nail down exactly what you're looking for, then I would head to google.com for a more general search, because there might be somebody else, even in genealogical circles, who's already tackled that subject. So that would be one where I think it'd be worth to do both. And you make a great point. It's so critical to understand why laws were made, why things happened the way they did, because that tells us what kind of paperwork gets generated, and those are our records.
For sure. Well, and then there's another place, because I had this when I was researching inheritance in Ohio. I started it just Google generally and didn't get anything, but then I went to another one of your favorites, which we can talk about next, which is Google Books, and I did find a book about the statutes that impacted inheritance. And then my friend who does probate estate, she's like, that is not typical. I'm like, oh, I have my citation from Google Books.
Yeah.
And then we both learned together. So tell me more about, I've alluded to Google Books. Tell me about Google Books.
Well, there's a full chapter just on Google Books, and I try to give kind of case study examples so that it's not just theory. You're actually following along and seeing how it unfolds. And I do a presentation, Devin. It's called Google Books, the tool I use every single day, or the tool you should be using every single day.
Sure.
And that's because it's so vast. And it's Google Books is over 25 million digital books. And of course, the fully digitized books are the ones prior to about 1924, when we get into the public domain. At least currently, that's the date. And so, wow, to be able to keyword search, because they've applied the optical character recognition to those books that we don't normally get on documents on google.com. So that makes them keyword searchable. And wow, there are so many history books. And just like you were saying, books of statutes, catalogs, almanacs, magazines, every type of book. Don't just think reference book. Think every type of publication. If they could get their hands on it and they had the ability to digitize it, they did. So it's just a wealth of information. And you can download them too. So I love downloading them. I'll drop them into Dropbox and I can read them offline while I'm, flying to my next presentation.
Which you do all of the time.
I do a lot.
Well, Lisa, tell us how people can get a copy of your book and then listen to you in general.
Sure. Well, you can find me out on the interweb at genealogygems.com. So gems is plural, genealogygems.com, or you can even go to lisalouisecook.com. It'll take you to the same place. There you'll find the store in the menu. So I have my book there and my other books as well. But it's available as a print book or also ebook.
Wasn't that a great interview? Well, guess what? That's not all. Lisa gave us so much more information. There's going to be a part 2, but it will be coming out in just a few weeks. Be sure to check the videos here for the video when it's released, or if you're watching it before it's released, other videos with interviews with expert genealogists.